My name is Marion Bell. I was 62 years old when my son took the orange dispatcher radio off my belt in front of 78 people and called me bus help. Not founder, not owner, not the woman who had started Bell County Student Transport with 2 used buses, 1 borrowed garage, and a handwritten list of children whose parents trusted me to get them home. Bus help. He said it during our district appreciation breakfast, while 36 drivers stood in navy jackets along the cafeteria wall, 9 school staff members waited near the coffee urns, 4 board members sat at the front table, 27 parents watched from folding chairs, and 2 buyers from Northline Transit held leather folders against their knees. My son Patrick smiled as if he had just corrected a spelling mistake. Then he peeled the embroidered owner jacket off my shoulders and handed me a paper badge that said Bus Help in black marker. A few people laughed because they thought it was a joke. It was not a joke. The buyers were there to finalize a $2.8 million purchase of my school bus company. Patrick would get the check. His wife would get the new house she had already shown off online. Northline would get my routes, my buses, my drivers, and the district contract I had protected for 27 years. And I would get every safety problem Patrick had been trying to hide behind my name. He wanted the money. He needed my name. He expected my silence. What he laughed at that morning was the old yellow route book under my arm. Patrick called it Mom's scrapbook. His wife, Chloe, called it dead paper. But by 4 o'clock that Friday afternoon, that book would stop $2.8 million from leaving escrow. Before I explain why, you need to understand one thing. My son did not try to sell a bus company. He tried to sell my permission. And he forgot that every child on every route had a name. The cafeteria smelled like burned coffee, powdered eggs, and floor wax. The kind of smell every public school in America seems to share, no matter what state you are in. On the far wall, the second graders had taped up thank you drawings for the drivers, yellow buses with smiling windows, stick people waving from sidewalks. One child had drawn a bus floating above the road with wings on it. I looked at that drawing while Patrick held my radio. That radio had been on my belt almost every school morning since 1998. Channel 3 for dispatch, Channel 6 for weather delay, Channel 9 for emergency only. Patrick turned it in his hand like it was an old toy. "Mom," he said loudly, "today is about the future. Let's not confuse memories with management." The buyers looked down at their folders. The drivers went quiet. My daughter-in-law Chloe stood beside Patrick in a cream pantsuit and smiled with her teeth only. Then Patrick leaned closer and said the line I still remember word for word. "Smile. The buyer needs your name, not your opinion." I did not slap him. I did not shout. I did not snatch the radio back. I looked at the old yellow route book in my left hand, pressed my thumb against the cracked tape on its spine, and said, "Then they should read the first page." Patrick laughed. That was his first mistake. Before we continue, I want to say this. Hidden Revenge Stories shares stories about people who stop disappearing inside their own families. If this story speaks to you, tell me where you are listening from, and tell me this. Have you ever been treated like help while carrying the whole route? Now let me take you back to the morning I first opened that yellow book. It was August 18th, 1997. My husband Alan was still alive then, and we owned exactly 2 buses. One had a bad heater. The other had a door that stuck if the temperature dropped below freezing. We parked them in the back lot of my brother's auto shop because we could not afford a real yard yet. Our first contract was not with the whole district. It was with St. Mark's Elementary, 28 children, 3 routes, 5 mornings a week. I drove bus 2. Alan drove bus 1. I dispatched from the payphone outside the garage until we could afford a radio system. The night before the first school day, Alan brought home a yellow ledger from the office supply store. Hardcover, thick pages, blue lines, the kind of book people used before everything moved into screens and passwords. He opened to the first page and wrote in black pen, "Children are not cargo." Then he slid the book across the kitchen table to me. "Every route goes in here," he said. "Every stop, every parent note, every allergy, every custody warning, every child who gets scared when the driver is late. Machines forget. People rush. This book doesn't. I told him he sounded dramatic. He said, "Good. We're carrying children. Be dramatic." For 27 years, I kept that book. Then I kept the next one. Then the next. By the time this story happened, the yellow book at the breakfast was volume 11. The corners were soft from use. The spine had been taped twice. The cover had a coffee ring from a winter storm morning when 3 buses got stuck behind a jackknifed milk truck, and I had spent 47 minutes moving children route by route, name by name, until every parent knew where their child was. To Patrick, it was clutter. To me, it was the difference between a bus route and a promise. Patrick was 8 when Alan died. A stroke. Sudden. No warning worth mentioning. One morning, Alan was arguing with me about whether Route 6 needed 5 extra minutes after the railroad crossing. By dinner, he was gone. People brought casseroles. They said things like, "You're so strong," which is what people say when they need your grief to be tidy. I was not strong. I was busy. The buses still had to run. Children still stood at corners in the dark with backpacks bigger than their shoulders. Parents still looked at their clocks. Schools still opened their doors at 7:45. The district still expected service. So I woke up at 4:30 every morning, made coffee strong enough to float a bolt, checked weather reports, called drivers, signed fuel slips, answered parent calls, and drove when someone was sick. Patrick grew up in that company. He did homework on the dispatch counter. He slept across 2 office chairs during snow delay mornings. He knew the drivers by first name. Denise taught him how to check tire pressure. Earl taught him how to back a bus into Bay 3 without hitting the cone. I taught him that when a parent says, "My son is not allowed to get off with his father," you write it down, you verify it, and you do not treat it like gossip. For a while, I thought he understood. When he came back from college at 24, he told me he wanted to help modernize the company. "Mom," he said, "you built something solid. But solid isn't enough anymore." He made us a website. He put GPS trackers in the buses. He changed payroll from handwritten checks to direct deposit. He got us a better fuel account. I was proud of him. That is the part people skip in stories like this. They want the villain to arrive, wearing a black hat, and saying cruel things from the beginning. Patrick did not start that way. He started as my son carrying printer paper into the office and telling me I should stop doing everything myself. Then, slowly, help became control. He asked for login access, then admin access, then vendor approval, then permission to handle district communications because, as he said, "You're better with drivers, I'm better with institutions." I let him. Not because I was foolish, because he was my son. And because after Alan died, some part of me still wanted to believe that building the company had built a family strong enough to carry it. Chloe entered our lives 3 years before the sale breakfast. She was polished in a way that made every room feel like it had been inspected and found lacking. She wore white coats in winter and beige heels in rain. She called the bus yard the depot, though nobody else did, and spoke of brand repositioning while drivers wiped diesel from their hands. At first, she was polite to me. Then she became sweet. Then she became sweet in public and sharp in private. "Marion," she said one afternoon, watching me tape the yellow route book after the spine cracked again, "have you considered that holding on to old systems makes Patrick's job harder?" I said, "Patrick's job exists because these old systems kept children safe long enough for him to inherit something worth improving." She smiled, not kindly. Of course. That was Chloe's favorite phrase when she meant, "You're old, and I'm waiting for you to stop talking." The first warning came in February. A driver named Denise knocked on my office door at 6:12 in the morning. Denise had been with me for 19 years. Short gray hair, steel-toed boots, voice like gravel in a coffee can. She was not dramatic. If Denise looked worried, something was wrong. "You know Patrick moved 2 of my stops yesterday?" she asked. I looked up from the delay sheet. "Which stops?" "Maple and Crown, the Carlson twins." I frowned. "Those are special release stops. They can't be changed without parent confirmation." That's what I told him. And? He said the software approved it. I opened the route system, The stops had been moved. The parent confirmation box was checked. But when I pulled volume 11 from the shelf and turned to Route 14, the Carlson twins had 3 red stars beside their names. Red star meant custody restriction. No alternate drop-off. No change without written confirmation from the mother and the school liaison. I called the mother myself. She had not approved anything. Patrick brushed it off. "Mom, it was an optimization error. Nobody got hurt." Nobody got hurt. Those 3 words are how careless people ask to be excused before consequences arrive. I put the correction in writing. Patrick signed it. I filed it. He rolled his eyes when he thought I could not see. The second warning came in March. The district sent a notice about 3 late arrivals at Westbridge Middle School, all on Route 22, all driven by a new substitute Patrick had hired through an agency without having Denise ride along for the first week. That was not how we train drivers. Patrick said the district was overreacting. I said, "A late bus is not just a late bus. It is a building full of parents calling the front office, teachers holding attendance, and one child thinking they did something wrong because they arrived after the bell." He sighed. "You make everything emotional." "No," I said. "I make everything specific." He did not like that. By April, Patrick had begun holding meetings without me. He called them strategy meetings. I called them rooms where people forgot who signed the district contract. Then I saw the first North Line Transit email. It was not addressed to me. That was the point. Denise printed it and placed it on my desk without a word. Subject line, Transition Asset Summary. Patrick had listed our fleet, our route contracts, our driver roster, and our district renewal value. At the bottom, in a paragraph full of soft language, was the first lie. Current safety officer has approved all route transfers. I was the current safety officer. I had approved nothing. When I confronted him, he shut my office door with 2 fingers. "Mom, don't make this bigger than it is. You wrote that I approved route transfers. It's a standard sentence. It's a false sentence." He rubbed his forehead. "We're exploring options." "With my name?" "With the company's name. My signature is on the district contract." His face hardened just enough for me to see the man he was becoming when I was not in the room. "That's temporary," he said. There it was. 27 years reduced to temporary. I could have stopped everything then, maybe. But stopping a sale early is not the same as exposing why it was wrong. Patrick would have told people I was emotional. Chloe would have told people I was scared of retirement. The buyers would have stepped back politely and waited for family tension to settle. I had learned one thing from 27 years of dispatch. Do not move too early if the road ahead is still fogged. Slow down. Turn on the lights. Let the shape of the danger show itself. The sale breakfast was Patrick's idea. He called it Driver Appreciation and Future Partnership Morning. I called it a performance. It was scheduled for Wednesday at 8 a.m. in the district cafeteria, 2 days before the Transportation Committee vote. The Friday vote mattered because the district had to approve any transfer of active student routes before escrow could release funds. In plain English, Patrick could not get the money unless the district accepted North Line as the new route holder, and the district could not approve that transfer if the safety officer had not signed off. Again, in plain English, they wanted the check. They needed my yes. On Tuesday night, the evening before the breakfast, I stayed late in the dispatch office. The bus yard after dark has its own sound. Metal cooling, wind moving through mirrors, chains on the gate tapping once in a while, like someone counting slowly. The office smelled like dust, toner, and the peppermint gum Denise kept in the top drawer. I pulled the yellow route book from the shelf, volume 11. I turned to the first page. Children are not cargo. Alan's words were not in that volume. They were photocopied from volume 1 and taped inside the cover of every route book after it. The tape had yellowed. The ink had faded slightly, but the sentence still stood there like a fence. I turned page after page. Carlson twins. No alternate drop-off. Route 22 substitute training incomplete. Bus 18 brake inspection due. Route 9 morning aid required until May 31st. Westbridge wheelchair lift note. Then I found what Patrick had missed. Page 73. A district transfer clause I had copied by hand after our last renewal meeting. No active route transfer may be recommended without current safety officer review of student-specific restrictions, driver assignment continuity, and parent notification record. Under it were my initials and Lillian Graves' initials. Lillian Graves was the district transportation director. She had initialed it during a March renewal meeting after a parent complaint in another county led to a child being dropped at the wrong address. Lillian was not warm. She was not cruel. She was exact. I liked exact people. I took a photo of page 73. Then I put the book back in my bag. Patrick's second mistake was assuming old paper could not outrank new software. Wednesday morning, he made his performance. The cafeteria was full by 8:05. Drivers in one line, parents in another, board members near the front, buyers in gray suits. Chloe moved through the room with a clipboard, touching elbows, laughing softly, saying phrases like next chapter and regional growth. I stood by the coffee table with my orange radio on my belt and the yellow root book under my arm. At 8:17, Patrick stepped onto the low cafeteria platform. "Everyone," he said, tapping the microphone, "thank you for being here. Today is about honoring where Bell County student transport came from and celebrating where it's going." People clapped. He talked about technology. He talked about growth. He talked about modern leadership. Then he looked at me. My mother has been part of this company since the beginning. Part of, not founder, not owner, part of. She drove buses, took calls, kept notes, and helped us become what we are today. Helped. My drivers went still. Denise folded her arms. Patrick smiled wider. And now, with Northline Transit, we're ready to move beyond old habits. That was when Chloe walked over to me with the paper badge. I looked at it. "Bus help," she said softly. "It's just for the photo. Don't make it awkward." There are sentences families use when they are asking you to disappear politely. Don't make it awkward. Be grateful. Smile for the picture. It's just paperwork. Think of the family. I had heard them all by then. Patrick came down from the platform himself. He took the radio off my belt. He removed my owner jacket. He pressed the paper badge to my blouse. The adhesive was cheap. It pulled at the fabric. Then he said loudly, "There, now we're all clear." Some parents shifted in their chairs. One buyer looked at the floor. Chloe clapped first. A few people followed because people often clap when they do not know what else to do. I looked at the yellow root book. Patrick saw me looking. "Mom," he said into the microphone, "you can put the scrapbook away. We use real systems now." I lifted the book slightly. "This is the real system." He laughed. "Bus help doesn't get to hold up a sale." That was his third mistake. The room heard it. More importantly, the room remembered it. After the breakfast, Patrick pulled me into the hallway outside the cafeteria. The walls were covered with laminated lunch menus and anti-bullying posters. A poster beside his shoulder said, "Words matter." I remember that because life has a strange sense of staging. "You embarrassed me," he said. I stood still. "You made that book look important." "It is important." "It is paper." "So is a contract." His jaw moved. Chloe stepped closer. "Marian, this has been difficult for Patrick. You need to stop making him choose between his future and your feelings." "My name is in the transfer packet." "Temporarily," Patrick said. There it was again. Temporary. I asked, "Did you tell Northline the route restrictions were reviewed?" He looked away for half a second. "Enough." Chloe answered for him. "The packet says everything needed." "That is not what I asked." Patrick lowered his voice. "Friday at 4, the board approves the transfer. Escrow releases after that. You can fight it and look bitter, or you can stand with us and look respected." "Respected? You know what I mean." "No," I said. "I think I know exactly what you mean." He held out his hand. "For once, Mom, let the future happen." I looked at his hand. It was the same hand that once held mine crossing icy school parking lots after Alan died. The same hand that had made paper buses at the dispatch counter. The same hand now asking me to give him my silence so he could sell what he had not protected. I did not take it. Thursday morning, Denise came into my office before dawn. She closed the door. That alone told me something had changed. Patrick had Earl clean out the old dispatch cabinet, she said. I looked up. What cabinet? The metal one by the back door. The cabinet held old incident folders, route books 1 through 10, spare stop flags, snow chains, and Alan's first route map. My chair scraped the floor as I stood. The back hall smelled like cold concrete and bus exhaust. Earl was there with 2 cardboard boxes and the apologetic face of a man following orders he already regretted. The cabinet was open, empty shelves. My route books sat in a box marked shred. For a second, I could not speak. Not because the books were valuable in the way people understand value, not because anyone would put them behind glass, but because every spine in that box held mornings when I had chosen safety over convenience. Every page was a child who got home because somebody wrote down the detail everyone else wanted to rush past. Patrick walked in behind me. I told Earl to clear the clutter. I turned around. You put Alan's first route book in a shred box. His face flickered, then hardened. Mom, don't weaponize Dad. I picked up volume 1. The cover was cracked. The yellow had faded toward brown. Alan's handwriting on the first page was still dark. Children are not cargo. Patrick looked at it and said, that sentence does not run a company. No, I said, it built one. Denise stepped between us just enough to make herself visible. Patrick noticed. Denise, he said you work for Bell County Student Transport. She did not blink. I know who I work for. That sentence changed the air. Patrick heard it. So did I. By noon, I had copies. Not stolen files, not private emails, not anything I did not have authority to access. My route books, my contract, my safety officer record, the transfer packet Patrick had sent with my name on the approval line, the district clause on page 73, the parent confirmation gaps for the Carlson twins, the training gap on Route 22, the maintenance note on Bus 18, 3 evidence tracks, his lie, my authority, his money. Keep it simple. That was how you survived a crisis. Not by knowing everything, by knowing which 3 things mattered. At 2:40 p.m. Thursday, I called Lillian Graves. Her assistant put me through after I said 3 words. Active route transfer. Lillian answered with, Marion, not Mrs. Bell, not ma'am, Marion. She had that kind of voice that made unnecessary words feel embarrassed. I received the North Line transfer packet, she said. Then you saw my approval line. I saw a typed statement saying current safety officer has approved all route transfers. I did not approve them. A pause. Not surprised. Calculating. Can you document that? Yes. Can you document route-specific concerns? Yes. Can you be at the Transportation Committee meeting tomorrow at 3:30? Yes. Bring what you have. Then she added, bring the original route book. I looked at volume 11 on my desk. I will. Patrick called me at 6:18 that evening. I let it ring twice before answering. You called, Lillian, he said. Not a question. Yes. You are trying to ruin me. No. I am trying to stop you from selling children like route numbers. That is dramatic. So was putting my books in a shred box? He exhaled hard. Do you understand what happens if this sale fails? North Line walks. The debt stays. The bus loans stay. The yard lease stays. I have been carrying all of that while you sit in that office worshiping paper. There it was. Debt. The word he had hidden under future. How much? I asked. Silence. How much debt, Patrick? You don't need to know. If my name is in the transfer packet, I do. He said nothing. I opened the vendor folder Denise had given me earlier. Fuel account overdue. Maintenance invoice outstanding. GPS contract penalty. Bus 18 brake work delayed. Yard lease renewal unpaid. The total was not $2.8 million. But it was enough to explain his panic, enough to explain Chloe's cream pantsuit, enough to explain why the sale had to close Friday. "Patrick," I said, "did you promise Northline a clean transfer?" He did not answer. "Did you promise the district I had approved the routes?" Still nothing. Then, quietly, he said, "You were supposed to trust me." That almost broke me. Because once I had. I slept 3 hours that night. At 4:41 a.m., I woke before the alarm and lay still in the dark. My bedroom window faced the bus yard. From my second-floor apartment above the office, I could see the tops of the buses lined up under security lights, yellow roofs glowing dull gold in the pre-dawn. Beyond them, the road curved toward town, toward the schools, toward the corners where children would stand with backpacks and sleepy eyes. I made coffee. I dressed in black slacks, a white blouse, and Alan's old navy cardigan. Not armor, just something that felt steady. Then I took the paper bus help badge from my purse. I had kept it. The corner had curled where Patrick pressed it against my blouse. The marker had bled slightly at the word "ELP." I placed it inside the yellow route book at page 73. Not because it was evidence, because I wanted to remember the exact moment my son mistook my silence for surrender. At 3:12 p.m., I arrived at the district office. The transportation committee meeting was held in room B, which was less impressive than it sounds. Beige walls, long table, fluorescent lights, a flag in one corner, a coffee station with powdered creamer, a clock that ticked loudly because nobody had thought to take the battery out. But public rooms do not need chandeliers to matter. They need records. They need witnesses. They need minutes. Patrick was already there with Chloe, the 2 Northline buyers, a district attorney, 3 board members, Lillian Graves, and a clerk typing at a laptop. Denise sat in the back row. Earl sat beside her. 6 drivers had come, still in uniform. Patrick saw them and stiffened. Chloe saw my yellow route book and smiled like she had been handed a small advantage. "Marion," she said, "you brought the scrapbook." I sat down. "Yes." Patrick leaned toward the buyers and said, not quietly enough, "This is exactly what I warned you about." She gets sentimental. Lillian looked over her glasses. "Mr. Bell, this meeting is being recorded." Patrick sat back. The first 20 minutes were procedure. Northline introduced itself. Patrick described the transfer. The attorney reviewed the sale timeline. Escrow release was scheduled for 4 p.m., pending district approval. In plain English, if that room said yes, Patrick's money moved. At 3:47, Lillian turned to Patrick. "Mr. Bell, the packet submitted on May 6th states, quote, 'Current safety officer has approved all route transfers.' Is that your statement?" Patrick adjusted his tie. "Yes. And who is the current safety officer?" He glanced at me. "My mother, technically." Technically. A word people use when the truth is inconvenient, but still standing there. Lillian wrote something down. "Has Marion Bell signed the transfer approval?" Patrick cleared his throat. The approval was verbal. There it was, the lie, spoken into the record. Lillian turned to me. "Mrs. Bell?" I opened the yellow route book to page 73. "No." Patrick laughed once. Not loudly. Just enough. "With respect, Marion is having a hard time letting go. She drove buses. She kept notes. She helped build this. But driving buses is not the same as running a company." The room went still. He should have stopped. He did not. "You drove buses," he said, looking directly at me. "I built a company." Denise made a sound behind me. Not a word. A breath with edges. I looked at Patrick and felt something inside me settle. Not anger. Not grief. Something cleaner. Lillian said, "Mrs. Bell, please provide your documentation." I slid the yellow route book across the table. Patrick's eyes followed it. For the first time all week, he looked afraid of paper. Lillian put on her reading glasses. She read page 73 first. Then the photocopied first page. Children are not cargo. Her face did not change. Exact people are a mercy in rooms full of performance. She compared the district transfer clause to the packet. She checked the current safety officer record. She reviewed the parent notification gaps. She marked the Carlson twins, route restriction. She looked at the Route 22 substitute training note. She asked the clerk to pull the March renewal minutes. The clerk typed. The printer in the corner woke up. One page slid out. Then another. The room listened to the printer because nobody wanted to breathe too loudly. Lillian read the minutes. Then she looked at Patrick. The March renewal minutes confirmed that all active route transfers require current safety officer review and written approval. Patrick said, "That was not meant to block a sale. It was meant to protect student-specific restrictions during any route transfer." "That is a technicality." Lillian's eyes lifted. "No, it is the contract." The district attorney leaned toward her, read the page, and nodded. Lillian turned to the Northline buyers. The transfer packet contains an unsupported statement of approval. Several student-specific restrictions appear unreviewed. One substitute training sequence appears incomplete. One maintenance note requires verification before route transfer. Patrick's face had gone pale. Chloe touched his sleeve. Lillian continued. "In plain English, your company was asked to approve a sale based on permission Mrs. Bell did not give." The first buyer closed his folder. That sound was softer than a slammed door, but it ended more. Patrick leaned forward. "Lillian, please. We can correct the paperwork after approval. Escrow is time-sensitive." "No." One word. Flat. Official. Beautiful. "The committee will not recommend transfer today." Patrick turned to the board members. "This is my family business." Board member Alvarez, who had been quiet until then, said, "Not when it carries our students." The second buyer closed his folder. Chloe whispered, "Patrick." He stood halfway. "This is because of her. She is punishing me because she can't stand that I'm taking the company forward." Lillian pushed the yellow route book back toward me. "No, Mr. Bell, the record is clear. Mrs. Bell did not stop your sale. Your packet did." The clerk typed that. I heard every key. Patrick looked at me then, not like a son, like a man searching for a place to put blame. I opened the route book and removed the bus help badge from page 73. I placed it on the table between us. "You wanted my name," I said. "The record kept it mine." That was all. I did not need more. The official results came in layers. First, the transfer recommendation was denied, not delayed. Denied pending corrected authorization, safety review, parent notification verification, driver training records, and maintenance clearance. Second, escrow did not release. At 4:06 p.m., Northline's attorney informed Patrick that the purchase agreement had a clean transfer condition. Without district approval, funding would remain frozen. Third, Northline suspended the deal, not because they were noble, because buyers do not like discovering that the person selling the routes may not have had the authority he claimed. Fourth, the district corrected its contact record. By 5:22 p.m., an email went out to every school principal, current safety officer, and authorized route transfer contact, Marion Bell, not Patrick, Marion Bell. Fifth, the board opened a route compliance review, not a criminal drama, not handcuffs, not screaming in a hallway. Just the kind of quiet official review that makes people who have been careless with children's names suddenly wish they had read the old book. Patrick lost Northline within a week. Chloe deleted the house photos. The fuel vendor called him directly about the overdue balance. The GPS contract penalty landed where it belonged. Not on me, not hidden under my name, on the man who signed the upgrade, on the man who promised the sale, on the man who thought a paper badge could rename 27 years of work. The first night after the vote, I sat alone in the dispatch office until almost 8. The buses were back, keys on hooks, route sheets in trays. Denise had left a sandwich wrapped in foil on my desk without saying anything. Turkey and Swiss. Mustard on the side. She knew I hated soggy bread. I did not eat it right away. I sat with the yellow route book open to the first page. Children are not cargo. For the first time all week, I cried. Not loudly, not in a way that would make a good scene. just tired tears falling onto my blouse while the radio charger blinked red, then green, then red again. I was not crying because I had won. I was crying because my son had made me prove that I had mattered. That is a different kind of grief, the kind that comes after the danger passes, and your body finally asks what it costs to stay calm. Patrick called me 11 times that weekend. I did not answer. On Monday, he came to the yard. Denise saw him through the glass and stood up. I said it's all right. He entered my office without knocking, then seemed to remember he no longer had that right. He looked around. The yellow route book was on my desk. The orange radio was back on my belt. The owner jacket hung on the chair behind me. He looked at the jacket, then at me. Northline walked, he said. I know. The debt is still here. I know. I was trying to save us. No, I said. You were trying to save yourself and call it us. His face folded slightly. For 1 second, he looked 8 years old again. Sitting on the dispatch counter, shoes swinging, asking if Dad was coming home from the hospital. I hated that second, because love does not vanish just because trust breaks. That is what makes family betrayal so hard. If strangers do it, you can hate them cleanly. When your child does it, the wound keeps old photographs inside it. Patrick sat down without being invited. I didn't think it would go that far. You put my root books in a shred box. He looked at the floor. I was angry. You wrote that I approved transfers. I thought you would. You did not ask. He rubbed his eyes with both hands. I thought if the sale closed, everything would be easier. For whom? He had no answer. That was the first honest thing he gave me. I did not fire Patrick that day. Not because he deserved protection. Because the company needed clean separation, not another performance. I had the attorney draft the terms. Patrick resigned from operational authority within 10 days. His access to district communications ended. His vendor approval rights ended. His admin access was removed. He remained a minority shareholder on paper until we could resolve the debts and buyout, but he no longer touched routes, drivers, student records, or contracts. All communication went through counsel. Chloe called that cruel. I called it clear. There is a difference. The compliance review took 6 weeks. It was not pleasant. Lillian's office asked for route books, driver training records, maintenance invoices, parent notification notes, delay reports, and emergency contact updates. Denise and I spent 3 long evenings sorting folders at the conference table while Earl brought coffee and pretended not to worry. We found problems. Of course we did. Patrick had rushed software changes without matching paper confirmations. He had delayed maintenance on Bus 18 because he expected the sale to close before the invoice mattered. He had shifted 2 substitute drivers without completing ride-along notes. He had not meant to hurt children. But safety does not care what you meant. Safety cares what you did. We corrected every route. We called every affected parent. We documented every driver assignment. We paid the maintenance invoice. We parked Bus 18 until the brake work was signed off. We did not hide the mess, we cleaned it. The district renewed our contract for 1 year instead of 3. That was fair. Trust, once damaged, should not be handed back whole just because someone cries in an office. I accepted the 1-year renewal. Then I changed the company. No family member could approve route changes alone. No software update counted without human review. No student-specific restriction could be moved without parent confirmation and school liaison sign-off. Every driver got the authority to stop a route if a safety note looked wrong, and every new employee, from mechanic to dispatcher, read the first page of Volume 1. Children are not cargo. The old yellow route book did not go into a museum case. I did not turn it into a shrine. That would have been another kind of freezing. Instead, I made it part of training, not as the system, as the reason behind the system. On the first Monday of the new school year, I stood in the dispatch room with 12 drivers, 2 mechanics, 1 new dispatcher, and Denise leaning against the file cabinet with her arms crossed like a guard dog who had been promoted to queen. I held up the old book. "This is not nostalgia," I said. "This is a warning. If the screen says one thing and the child safety says another, you stop and ask. If someone tells you to hurry past a name, you slow down. If anyone in this company calls a child cargo, a parent a problem, or a driver just help, you come to me." The new dispatcher, a young man named Miles, raised his hand. What if the person saying it is family? The room went quiet. I looked at him. "Especially then." Denise smiled. "Just barely, but I saw it. My relationship with Patrick became smaller. That is the honest word. Not healed, not destroyed, smaller. He saw his daughter twice a week at my house for dinner because my granddaughter Lily loved the buses and had done nothing wrong. Patrick and I did not discuss the company at those dinners. He asked about Lily's spelling tests. I asked if she needed new winter boots. We kept the table simple. Some people think boundaries are walls. They can be. But sometimes they are painted lines on a school lot. They do not stop everyone from crossing. They make it clear who chose to. Chloe stopped coming. That was easier. Patrick apologized once in November. Not perfectly, not dramatically, no tears at a microphone. He stood by my kitchen sink after Lily fell asleep on the couch and said, "I thought being the future meant proving I wasn't just your son." I dried a plate. "You could have done that without erasing me." He nodded. "I know that now." I believed that he knew it. I did not yet know if knowing would change him. Those are different things. By winter, Bell County Student Transport had settled into a quieter rhythm. The debt was still real. We refinanced 2 buses, sold 1 spare van, renegotiated the yard lease, and cut the GPS package down to what we actually needed. No glossy growth plan. No regional expansion. No cream pantsuits walking through the yard calling it a depot. Just buses leaving before sunrise, drivers checking mirrors, children climbing steps with mittens and lunchboxes, parents waving from porches, the kind of work that does not look impressive until it fails. On December 12th at 5:12 a.m., I unlocked the dispatch office before anyone else arrived. The air was sharp enough to sting. Frost coated the bus windows in pale sheets. The yard lights hummed. Somewhere down the road, a train horn sounded once, low and far away. I hung my coat on the back of the chair. Then I took the orange radio from the charger and clipped it to my belt. Channel 3, Dispatch. I opened the yellow route book to that day's tab. Inside the front cover, beneath Alan's sentence, I had taped something new. Not the bus help badge. I threw that away after the review ended. I did not need to keep the insult once the lesson had done its work. What I taped inside was the district email naming me authorized route transfer contact. Marion Bell. My name, my authority, my responsibility. I ran my finger over the printed letters. Then I turned on the lights. Denise arrived 5 minutes later, carrying 2 coffees. She set one on my desk. "Morning, boss." I looked at her. She looked back like she had not said anything important, but she had. The first bus pulled out at 5:43. Bus 12, Route 4, Earl driving. 8 children on the first run, 11 on the second, 2 parent notes, 1 inhaler reminder, no alternate drop-offs. The old book lay open beside the new system. Paper and screen, memory and update, past and future, both doing their jobs. That is what Patrick never understood. The future does not require you to destroy the thing that kept people safe long enough to reach it. It only asks you to carry the right things forward. My son called me bus help in front of 78 people. He thought he was taking my place. He thought a paper badge could shrink me. He thought an old yellow route book was dead paper, but the record remembered every route he rushed, every signature he did not have, every child he tried to turn into a line item, and every permission he tried to sell before asking. The $2.8 million never moved. The sale never closed. My name went back where it belonged. And every morning now, before the first bus leaves the yard, I open that yellow book and read the first line. Children are not cargo. Neither are the people who protect them. If you have ever had to keep the record when someone tried to erase your work, type keep the route book.
Thank you for watching. If you'd like to hear more, you can follow this channel. Don't forget to hit that little bell icon to be notified when a new video is uploaded.